There are moments in life when you feel that something larger is unfolding through you. You may not have planned it, you may not even feel prepared for it, but there is an undeniable sense that your life is serving a purpose beyond what you imagined for yourself. Often, this realization does not come in a single instant. It whispers through subtle signs, through experiences that push you to grow, and through responsibilities that seem to find you rather than ones you deliberately chose. What I want to share with you today are the signs that you may already be fulfilling a role far greater than you once believed possible. These are not merely signs of success in the ordinary sense, but signs that point to alignment with a deeper order, one where your individual journey connects to something timeless and universal. There comes a time in life when you begin to notice that others are drawn to you, not for the roles you have claimed, not for the titles you carry, but for something far less visible and yet far more powerful. It often surprises you when it first happens. You may wonder why the friend who could have called anyone else in their darkest hour chooses instead to call you. You may question why the co-worker, who works side by side with many others, seeks your ear and not another's. And yet, despite your uncertainty, despite your own quiet doubts about whether you are capable of carrying such weight, they continue to come. It is as if some invisible current has positioned you to stand at a crossroads where others find comfort, clarity, and direction simply in your presence. In these moments, it is natural to feel unprepared. You may think, "Who am I to advise another? I am still trying to find my own way." But this is where life whispers its truth. It is not perfection that people turn toward, nor mastery of every answer, but resonance. Resonance is born out of the struggles you have endured, the shadows you have walked through, the failures you have survived, and the quiet wisdom you have gathered along the way. It is not that you hold all knowledge. It is that your scars, visible or invisible, carry authenticity. People do not seek you because you stand above them. They seek you because, in you, they recognize a mirror of their own journey, but carried with a certain strength, a certain endurance that they themselves hope to find. Think of the mother who, though never trained in psychology or philosophy, knows how to listen to the cries of her child and soothe, not only with words, but with presence. Her comfort does not come from intellectual authority. It comes from the lived experience of love and sacrifice. Or consider the man who has lost much, who has stumbled through financial ruin, heartbreak, or illness. When someone else, standing at the edge of despair, comes to him, his words are not hollow. They carry weight because they are spoken not from a distance, but from the valley of shared human struggle. Guidance, then, is rarely about technical expertise. It is not reserved for those with credentials on their walls or accolades to their names. True guidance is about a deeper human quality, the ability to hold another's pain without flinching, to stand in the presence of another's confusion without rushing to cover it up with easy answers. Sometimes all a person needs is to feel that they are seen, that their experience is not meaningless, that someone else has walked through a storm and come out alive. And when you offer that, consciously or not, you become a light in another's darkness. Perhaps you recall a time in your own life when you were lost, and a single conversation shifted the course of your thinking. Maybe it was not even what the person said, but the way they said it, the quiet certainty in their voice, the fact that they did not dismiss your fears, the way they allowed you to unfold your truth without judgment. Those moments remain with us. Years later, when you look back, you realize that it was not necessarily their wisdom that saved you, but their willingness to meet you where you were. And now, without realizing it, you are becoming that same presence for others. This is not an accident. There is a profound order in life that assigns us roles greater than we consciously choose. You may not have stood up one day and declared, "I will be a guide," but life, through its mysterious currents, prepares you in ways you could never design yourself. Each heartbreak you endured, each disappointment you carried, each lesson you learned in silence, these were not meaningless. They were shaping you into someone who could hold space for others, someone others instinctively trust with their fragility. There is, of course, a responsibility that comes with this. It is tempting to doubt yourself, to retreat into the thought that you are unworthy of the trust others place in you, but this doubt, too, is part of the path. It keeps you humble, it prevents you from becoming arrogant, and it reminds you that your role is not about claiming superiority. You are not a savior, nor are you required to fix every brokenness you encounter. You are simply asked to be present, to let your own lived humanity become a lantern in the night. There is great power in presence alone. Sometimes the most profound guidance is given not through speeches or instructions, but through silence, through the way you sit with someone in their grief, through the way your calm steadies their panic, through the way your faith quietly counters their despair. In such moments, you realize that guidance is not something you do, but something you are. The world today is filled with noise, with endless voices claiming authority, with information overwhelming every moment. And yet, people still seek out individuals they trust, not because of what they know, but because of who they are. A single authentic soul outweighs 1,000 loud experts. And if you find that people keep returning to you in their moments of confusion, then you are already playing a higher role than you imagined. Consider the countless stories of mentors who changed lives without even realizing it. A teacher pausing to encourage a discouraged student unknowingly ignites a lifelong confidence. A stranger offering kindness at a critical moment alters the trajectory of another's despair. These are not grand gestures in the world's eyes, but they are grand in the soul. And you, too, without realizing it, may be shaping lives far more deeply than you know. The truth is that guidance comes not only from what you have conquered, but also from what you are still wrestling with. People are not drawn to perfect answers. They are drawn to honest journeys. When you share your struggles openly, when you allow others to see that you, too, are navigating uncertainty, you give them permission to embrace their own imperfection. This authenticity is the very fabric of true guidance. So when someone turns to you, whether it is a close friend, a colleague, or even a stranger, pause before you dismiss yourself. Recognize that their turning toward you is a testament to something real within you, something that has been forged by your own life's trials. You may not always have the right words, and that is fine. What matters most is that you are willing to stand beside them, to hold the moment with them, to let your presence remind them that they are not alone. Life does not call upon us to be flawless guides. It calls upon us to be human, deeply human, willing to carry what we have lived into the lives of others. And so, when people turn to you for guidance, even when you do not feel ready, know this: readiness is not a prerequisite. What matters is not whether you think you are enough, but whether you are willing to be there. And in your willingness, you will discover that you are already fulfilling a role higher than you ever imagined. There are moments in life when you feel as though you have been thrown into a storm you never asked for, as though fate itself has conspired against you, testing every fiber of your being. You look around and wonder why others seem to walk lighter paths, while yours is burdened with obstacles, detours, and hardships that seem far greater than you ever thought you could endure. At first, it feels unjust, as if some unseen hand has chosen you for misfortune. You question, you resist, you even despair. But in time, if you dare to look deeper, you begin to understand that these challenges are not punishments but invitations. Life is not cruel in handing them to you. Rather, it has entrusted you with them, believing you capable of transformation. For no soul is called into difficulty unless there is something in them that can be forged by fire. It is within these very struggles that you come to meet yourself more fully than you ever have before. Comfort may bring you rest, but it rarely awakens the depths of your spirit. Struggle, however, strips away illusions, forces you to confront your limitations, and compels you to discover reserves of strength you never knew existed. Think of those times when everything in you said, "I cannot go on," and yet you did. Think of the nights where tears blurred your vision, and still you rose the next morning. Each time you endured, you grew. And though it may not have felt like growth in the moment, you were being shaped into someone deeper, someone with a greater capacity to bear not only your own burdens, but also to help others bear theirs. Consider the story of Nelson Mandela. He did not choose to spend decades behind prison walls, separated from his family, stripped of his freedom, and silenced from the world. And yet, in that place of confinement, his soul expanded. Prison did not break him, it transformed him. The man who walked out of those gates was not the same man who had entered them. He emerged with a vision and a strength that would carry not only himself, but an entire nation toward reconciliation. His suffering was not random, it was formative, and though your challenges may not carry the same scale, the principle remains the same. What appears to be a chain around your life may in fact be the crucible that awakens your higher role. When you are drawn into challenges that stretch you beyond your capacity, you are, in truth, being called into a greater version of yourself. Life knows what you are capable of, even when you do not. You may feel that the weight is too heavy, that you are not equipped to carry it. But if the challenge has found you, it is because something within you, perhaps hidden even from your own awareness, has the strength to endure and transform through it. The mountain does not come to the one who cannot climb. It comes to the one whose ascent will change them, whose journey will reveal to others what is possible when the human spirit refuses to be defeated. At times, these difficulties arrive in forms you would never choose: illness, loss, betrayal, failure. Each cuts deep, threatening to hollow you out. But within the hollowing lies the possibility of becoming a vessel for something greater. Pain cracks the shell of your old self so that a deeper truth may emerge. In the same way that fire hardens clay into pottery or pressure turns coal into diamond, adversity presses upon you not to destroy you, but to refine you. The very experiences that make you cry out, "Why me?" may one day be the very experiences that allow you to stand before others and say with quiet strength, "If I survived this, so can you." And so, what at first feels like unfairness may in time be recognized as preparation. Imagine the athlete who is pushed beyond exhaustion in training, their muscles aching, their breath burning, their body protesting every step. In the moment it feels like punishment. But in the arena, when the moment of testing comes, they realize that every painful repetition was shaping them for victory. Life works much the same way. The challenges that feel unbearable are training you for a future you cannot yet see. They are carving into you the resilience, the compassion, and the wisdom that your higher role requires. I have seen this again and again in the quiet stories of ordinary people. A mother who raises children while carrying the hidden pain of her own broken childhood, and in doing so, gives them the love she was denied. A man who loses his livelihood, only to discover in the ashes a calling he had ignored for years, a vocation that finally awakens his spirit. A young person who endures rejection after rejection until they finally learn that their worth does not depend on the approval of others, and in that discovery they rise unshakable. These are not tales of defeat. They are testimonies of transformation. It is important to recognize that being drawn into these challenges is not a sign that life is against you. On the contrary, it is a sign that life trusts you. It has given you the raw material for greatness, though it comes disguised as hardship. This trust may not feel like a gift at first. It may feel like a burden you would rather not carry, but over time you come to see that every difficulty has been a teacher, every loss has carved depth into your soul, every trial has expanded your heart's capacity to love, to endure, to guide. If you reflect upon your own journey, you will notice that the periods of greatest growth did not arise from ease, but from resistance. You are not stretched into greatness by comfort, but by being pushed to the edge of yourself, forced to confront who you really are. And once you have met that deeper self, you cannot return to the smaller version you once inhabited. You are changed permanently, irreversibly. So when you find yourself in the midst of trials that seem disproportionate to your expectations, remember this: you are not being crushed, you are being shaped. The weight is not meant to destroy you, but to awaken you. If you feel that the challenge before you is greater than you imagined, it is because your role is also greater than you imagined. Life does not hand great burdens to small souls. It entrusts them to those who can be forged into something larger than themselves, something capable of carrying not only personal destiny, but also the invisible hopes of others. And if you can endure, if you can walk through the fire without losing the essence of who you are, then what emerges will not be the same person who entered. It will be someone stronger, wiser, and infinitely more compassionate. And that is the true sign that you are already stepping into a higher role, one that life saw within you long before you saw it within yourself. There are moments in life when the work you do, whether small or great in the eyes of the world, carries a weight that even you cannot fully explain. On the surface it may seem ordinary, even mundane, but within it there is a pulse, a hidden resonance, a sense that you are not merely performing a task, but serving something far more enduring. To others, it may look as though you are simply teaching a class, tending to a patient, building a product, or raising a child. Yet within yourself, you feel the quiet stirring of a deeper purpose, that what you are doing is not just about the present moment, but about shaping something unseen, something that extends far beyond your own life. Take the teacher, for example. To the outside world, it may appear that she spends her days repeating facts, writing notes on a board, and preparing students for exams. But within her, she knows she is doing something more. She is awakening minds, planting seeds of curiosity, shaping destinies that may not fully reveal themselves until decades later. She may never know which of her words will echo in a young person's soul, but she senses that her influence is not measured by grades, but by the life paths that her students will one day walk. Her work transcends information, it becomes transformation. Or consider the nurse. On the surface, she follows procedures, measures vital signs, administers medicine. But beneath the routine lies a far deeper truth. She is holding another human being through moments of profound vulnerability, moments when fear and fragility overwhelm them. To the patient, it is not just the medication that matters. It is the gentle touch, the reassuring smile, the reminder that they are not alone. The nurse may go home at the end of her shift thinking she only performed her duty, but to the person whose life she touched, she may have been a lifeline. This is the mystery of meaningful work. It often looks ordinary from the outside, but carries extraordinary significance within. The world measures tasks by productivity, efficiency, and visible outcomes. But the soul measures differently. The soul sees the hidden threads that connect small acts to larger destinies, quiet efforts to eternal truths. When you sense that your work carries meaning beyond its surface, you are recognizing that invisible thread. You are beginning to perceive that your life is part of a larger story, one that uses your hands, your voice, your presence to bring forth something greater than yourself. Think of the countless mentors whose influence rippled through generations. Perhaps it was a coach who once looked a struggling athlete in the eye and said, "I believe in you." That sentence may have seemed small at the time, just another phrase among thousands spoken in passing. Yet years later, that young athlete, now an adult, recalls it as the moment everything shifted. The coach may have forgotten the words entirely, but for the student they became a cornerstone of identity. How many lives have been altered in this quiet way through encouragement that seemed insignificant to the giver, but became life, changing to the receiver? This is why you must not underestimate the power of your daily work, however simple it appears. A kind word offered at the right time can redirect a life. A gesture of integrity in a world full of shortcuts can awaken trust where distrust once reigned. A single act of patience can become the seed of hope in someone who was ready to give up. The impact of your work is not always visible in the moment. Like seeds planted in the ground, its fruits may not emerge until long after you are gone. Yet they will emerge, silently, in ways you may never witness. There is an ancient truth hidden here. Meaning is not something you impose on life. It is something you uncover. When you feel that your work resonates beyond its surface, it is because you are aligning with the deeper order that underlies existence. You are touching the eternal through the ordinary. This is not an illusion, but the soul's recognition that the visible world is only a fragment of reality, and that your actions participate in a greater whole. Reflect for a moment on your own journey. Perhaps someone once gave you a chance when no one else would. Perhaps a teacher encouraged you, or a stranger showed you kindness, or a colleague spoke words of affirmation when you were ready to quit. That moment, though small, left an imprint on you, shaping your decisions, strengthening your resolve, reminding you of your worth. Now, without realizing it, you are carrying that torch forward. You may not always see the faces of those whose lives you affect, but you are part of the chain of meaning that stretches across generations. This sense of deeper meaning is also what sustains you when the surface of your work feels tiring or repetitive. There are days when the tasks may feel endless, when the routines weigh heavily, when the results seem invisible. But if you listen closely, you remember there is a purpose here. You are not just filing papers, teaching lessons, fixing machinery, or caring for bodies. You are contributing to the unfolding of something greater. That remembrance transforms even the most ordinary labor into sacred work. The danger in our modern world is that we often lose sight of this. We become consumed by outcomes, by recognition, by material rewards. We ask, what did I achieve today? What can I show for my effort? And in doing so, we miss the invisible fruits that are growing silently through our actions. But when you feel that resonance in your work, when you sense its meaning beyond the surface, you are reminded that not all value is measurable, not all results are immediate, and not all impact can be seen with the eyes. Some of the greatest contributions of your life will be the ones you never know you made. So when you find yourself sensing that your work carries a significance you cannot quite explain, trust that feeling. It is not fantasy, it is truth. You are perceiving that your life is woven into a larger fabric, and that your efforts, however small they seem, are threads in that design. To sense this is to glimpse your higher role, the one you may not have imagined for yourself, but which life is quietly calling you to fulfill. And in that awareness, even the smallest task becomes luminous with meaning, and even the most ordinary day becomes part of something eternal. There are moments when one begins to recognize a quiet weight pressing against the heart, a gravity that others around them do not seem to feel. It is not the weight of ordinary worries or fleeting troubles, but something deeper, more enduring, like a shadow that accompanies every step. To many, such a burden feels unfair, as though life has chosen them for a role they never volunteered for. Yet, upon closer reflection, this invisible weight is not punishment, but initiation. It is a sign that one's life has been entrusted with meaning, with responsibilities that stretch beyond the narrow confines of personal satisfaction. The greater the calling, the heavier the unseen load, for destiny rarely whispers to those who remain asleep. This hidden burden often manifests as a restlessness of the soul, a refusal to settle for shallow answers where others are content. While many distract themselves with the fleeting noise of life, you may find yourself staring at the ceiling late at night, asking questions no one around you dares to voice. Why am I here? What does my existence serve beyond survival? What am I meant to carry into this world? These questions are not evidence of despair, but of awakening. To wrestle with them is to stand at the threshold of transformation, for the very act of asking reveals that your spirit is unwilling to be bound by the trivial. You are haunted by the greater horizon because you are destined to walk toward it. The philosopher Soren Kierkegaard once said, "Anxiety is the dizziness of freedom." This dizziness is not weakness, but the trembling recognition of possibility. You sense that your choices matter more than you once thought, that your actions ripple beyond yourself, touching lives you may never meet. The weight is not only your own, it is the quiet realization that in carrying it, you influence the path of others. A parent who stays awake worrying about how to raise a child with kindness is not simply worrying. They are safeguarding the moral fabric of the future. The child may never fully see the sleepless nights, the sacrifices, or the relentless vigilance. Yet, in ways invisible to them, that weight carried by the parent becomes the silent scaffolding upon which their life stands. So too is the case with those who carry unseen burdens of responsibility, leadership, or truth. They anchor futures that others will one day inhabit. This hidden labor can at times feel unbearably lonely. To bear what others do not see is to risk being misunderstood. You may find that your concerns are dismissed as overthinking, your vigilance mistaken for worry, your seriousness mistaken for coldness. Yet you are not cold, you are awake. And awakening often carries with it the sorrow of seeing too much, too clearly, while the world continues in comfortable blindness. The weight you carry is the price of sight, but it is also the proof that you are walking a path many are not yet ready to travel. History shows us countless examples of those who bore such invisible loads long before the world recognized their purpose. Think of Rosa Parks, whose simple refusal to move was not a single act of rebellion, but the culmination of years carrying the invisible burden of injustice. Her weight was not only her own, it was the weight of countless voices silenced before her. Or consider the countless unnamed caregivers who hold together families, communities, and traditions, often with no acknowledgement. Their sacrifices, though hidden, shape entire generations. These stories remind us that unseen labor is often the most powerful, for it builds structures of resilience and love that others come to depend upon without ever noticing their foundations. There is, however, a danger in misinterpreting this burden. It is easy to believe that the weight signifies brokenness, that because you feel heavier than others, you must somehow be weaker. But the truth is quite the opposite. Life entrusts heavier responsibilities to those it deems capable of bearing them. The oak tree bends under storms the sapling cannot withstand. The river carves valleys where a mere stream would vanish. To be given such weight is to be recognized as strong enough to transform it into meaning. The burden does not crush you. It molds you, chisels you, and refines your soul into an instrument capable of carrying not only your own destiny, but also fragments of the destiny of others. And though the load feels invisible to those around you, its influence is not. You may never fully see how your unseen sacrifices ripple outward, but they do. The teacher who spends long hours preparing lessons for ungrateful students may never know that years later. One of those students will look back and realize their life was shaped by the care in those unseen hours. The nurse who carries the weight of countless silent sorrows may never meet the future generations impacted by the patients they once tended. The artist who labors in obscurity may not live to see their work inspire a revolution of thought. Yet all of them bear a weight that transcends recognition, serving purposes beyond their immediate sight. If you feel such heaviness pressing upon you, take it not as a curse, but as a sign that you are entrusted with more than the surface level of life. You are carrying not only your own fate, but the echoes of many others. To bear this weight with awareness is to live not as an isolated individual, but as a living thread woven into the fabric of humanity. The unseen burden you carry is the measure of the higher role you are already fulfilling, even if the world has not yet named it. There comes a moment when the veil of ordinary perception begins to thin, and what once appeared as coincidence begins to reveal a deeper rhythm. You notice that events fall into place with an uncanny precision, as if life itself is whispering in symbols, guiding you to see what others cannot. To many, the chance encounter on the street, the sudden turn of fortune, the closed door that leads to another opening, are dismissed as random. But to one who is awakening into a higher role, these moments shimmer with meaning. They are not accidents, but messages, threads of a tapestry too vast to be seen all at once, yet unmistakable when glimpsed. Perhaps you have experienced such a moment, meeting someone at precisely the time you needed their wisdom, or being redirected by failure only to discover it was preparation for something greater. You may have endured heartbreak that seemed unbearable only to find, years later, that it carved in you the compassion necessary to guide another through their darkest night. What once felt like senseless suffering now reveals itself as the necessary shaping of your soul. These patterns are the markers that your life is not moving in circles of chance, but along a path imbued with purpose. This recognition is not superstition. It is not the childish desire to see fate in every shadow. Rather, it is the awakening of an inner perception that senses the hidden order within chaos. The human psyche is attuned to patterns. We see them in the stars, in the seasons, in the cycles of birth and death. And yet, when these patterns weave themselves into the narrative of our own lives, many turn away, afraid of what it may demand of them. To see the deeper order is to accept responsibility, that your life is not merely yours, that it is a vessel in a story far older and far greater than the self. History is filled with examples of those who recognized these threads and allowed themselves to be guided by them. Think of Martin Luther King Jr., who often spoke of how every seeming obstacle in his life prepared him for the role he eventually fulfilled. The arrests, the threats, the betrayals, all of them, when seen in isolation, were moments of despair. But when held together, they revealed the formation of a leader destined to carry the collective burden of his people. Or consider the story of Malala Yousafzai. what others might call coincidence, her being the daughter of a teacher, her survival after an attempt on her life, becomes, in the larger view, the shaping of a voice meant to awaken millions. Their lives were not random fragments, but threads woven into a larger design. In our quieter lives, too, this pattern reveals itself. A man who once lost his job in humiliation later discovers that the forced change gave him the courage to build something of his own, which not only sustains his family but inspires others to take risks. A woman who endures years of illness later uses her hard-earned resilience to create a community of healing for those who feel abandoned. In each case, what seemed senseless in the moment unfolds over time into coherence. The soul knows that there is a guiding current beneath the surface, and when you learn to see it, you begin to live differently. This seeing comes with both wonder and humility. To recognize the hidden order in your life is to feel awe at being chosen to play a role within it. But it is also to realize that the role is not yours alone. You are a part of a larger drama, a single thread in a fabric of countless others. The patterns you perceive are not meant to inflate your sense of self, but to remind you that you are entrusted with something sacred. To live with this awareness is to step carefully, to treat even the smallest choices as if they matter, because they do. Each decision is a stone dropped into the water, sending ripples beyond what you can see. At times, the recognition of patterns will bring discomfort, for once you see, you cannot unsee. You will notice where others walk blind, dismissing the meaning that stares them in the face. You will witness synchronicities that demand you act, even when you wish to remain passive. To perceive the larger order is to be called into alignment with it, and that alignment may require sacrifice. It may require leaving behind the safety of old identities or embracing responsibilities you never thought you were ready for. But this is the price of sight. Once the pattern reveals itself, you cannot return to ignorance, and yet within this burden is also profound reassurance. If your life is not random, then neither are your struggles. If there is a hidden design, then even in moments of despair, you can trust that something is being shaped within you that will matter beyond what you can presently understand. The synchrony of life becomes a source of courage, a reminder that you are not wandering aimlessly, but walking a path drawn by something larger than yourself. When you notice these connections, when you begin to sense that life is not happening to you but through you, it is one of the clearest signs that you are fulfilling a role beyond your imagination. You no longer see only events, you see symbols. You no longer see only chance, you see purpose. And in this way of seeing, you step into the sacred responsibility of living as though every action, every word, every gesture carries meaning, for indeed it does. So if you find that people seek your guidance without you asking for it, if you are called into challenges that grow you, if your work feels heavier with meaning than it appears, if you carry invisible burdens, and if you begin to notice patterns that connect your past to your present, then perhaps you are already fulfilling a role higher than the one you once imagined. Do not shrink back from it. Do not dismiss it as coincidence. Life is always calling us into deeper alignment, asking us to grow beyond our narrow sense of self. And when you accept that role, not with pride but with devotion, you become more than yourself. You become part of the unfolding of something eternal.